Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football Sports Talk Radio. I'm your host, Logan Landers. And joining me on this marvelous Wednesday to talk about the 2021 Northwestern Wildcats team preview is my man, Jay McLovin. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's good to be here. We've had a lot of great times talking about three other pretty nice schools, and now we get to talk about the nitty-gritty and beautiful Northwestern.
Yes, talk about the Northwestern Wildcats here today on the program. Before we get started, please be sure if you enjoyed this video about Northwestern, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch. We appreciate all of your comments and shares. It means the world to us. Also, please go check out our podcast. We upload daily episodes, talk about anything and everything football-related, Legends interviews with former gridiron greats. We have great team previews, draft profiles, you name it, it's over there. Just type in 100 Yards of Football. And we're available on pretty much every single place you listen to your podcast. Like I said, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, you name it, we are over there. So thank you guys so much for downloading the podcast as well. All right, Jay, it's time. Let's talk about these Northwestern Wildcats coming in 2021. Give me your first initial thoughts on this team and how they're going to go in 2021.
Yeah, my first initial thoughts are, I don't freaking know. And I say that for a reason. I say that because, typically in other schools that we've talked about, they had a clear defined quarterback, or they had a clear defined offensive line, or they had a clear defined something. And Northwestern doesn't have any of that. Their quarterback is pretty much up for competition, which is not a bad thing. But let me say this right now. It's not a bad thing. It's just they don't have the defined things that we can really know for sure. There's a lot of questions that surrounds Northwestern. And the biggest question is, okay, who's going to be the field general? You got South Carolina's Helinski, and he's battling Clemson transfer Johnson for the starting job. So you got two transfers battling for the starting job at quarterback. So that's obviously question one. Question two is now they got rid of the running game. So now they got Cam Porter, who seems to be the guy. But we don't know 100% for sure on that either. But I think he will be the guy. And then, of course, the O-line, they get three starters back, but there's still four other starters that we're not 100% sure about. So there's a lot of questions when it comes to this team that I'm curious about. You got Cam, like I said, you got Cam Porter, who ripped up towards the end of the season, the last 3 games of the season. Cam Porter pretty much solidified his initial thought of he was going to be the starter going into this year based off of what he did towards the end of last year. So I see Cam Porter being the guy at the running back. I see your number 2 guy in Drake Anderson, who went to Arizona, so he's gone, and Ismail Bowler went to Miami. So you lost your number 2 guy and Drake Anderson to Arizona. You lost Isaiah Bowser to Miami. And so that leaves you with Andrew Clare, who comes in running over 2,000, or who runs over 2,000 yards, 13 scores over the last 4 seasons. So, I don't know, is it going to be Andrew Clare? Is it going to be Cam Porter? Both of them have shown promise on two different angles. But either way, they should have a pretty decent running game coming out of one of those 2 guys. And I think they'll have a change of pace scenery. I just don't know who's going to be the starter and who's going to be the change of pace back. I think that is still left to be determined. And I think that's something that's going to be, I guess, quite, when training camp hits, that'll be something that's looked upon, as well as obviously the quarterback position. They have Steven Robinson in terms of wideouts. They have Steven Robinson who in 2019 put up 164 yards per catch, or put up 16 yards per catch with 8 touchdowns, and was a nice playmaker. And you got to replace your top. They lost their top 4 wideouts, Logan.
Eesh.
They lost their top 4 wideouts, but they still have, on the remaining guys left over, they still have Robinson left over, and they still have a little bit of size and a little bit of promise on the other wideouts that are there competing for the starting jobs at those other positions. So they have the people, but there's questions. The tight end, Charlie Mangieri caught a few touchdowns last year, or caught 6 touchdowns. He caught a few touchdowns. I apologize. Caught a few touchdowns last year. They got Bryce Kurtz, the quick target, So they got Bryce Kurtz, who's coming in as a wideout to go along with Robinson. They got the tight end and Charlie Manzeri, who caught a few touchdowns. But honestly, Logan, the wideout position is wide open. The quarterback position is wide open. And the running back position is wide open in terms of who's going to be the starters, who's going to be changing pace. All of these things are questions. Mm-hmm. So when I look at Northwestern, he asked me, what do I think about Northwestern? I got a big question mark with the point at the bottom of it because we just don't know. We don't know.
You don't know how they're going to do.
We just don't know, right?
Yep, exactly. You don't know how these guys are going to perform. Like you said, they lost some guys. Like you said, the whole wide receiving room's changed pretty much. You don't know how the quarterback play is going to do, how the running backs are going to rock with. Tight end looks solid. But for me, Jay, you mentioned a lot of those positions have a question mark around them. I'd say the one position on offense is the offensive line. They got a lot of veterans there. They've got some guys coming back. Rashawn Slater, he was out last year. He opted out. And, you had Peter Skoronski who came in, and he did a pretty solid job. People are saying he might be the next big lineman that could get drafted if for Northwestern. That might be the next guy at the head of the table. So he looks good. And, of course, you have center Sam Garrick and then guard Ethan Whitaker. So you've got some experience there. But it's fine to have a good offensive line. But like you said, Jay, the offense is just a big question mark. You don't know how they're going to do this year. You really don't. Right. So the offense, I'm with you, Jay. It's a little bit of a question mark. It is definitely not a strong point for this team. But you never know. They could come out and they could surprise some people with some of these guys who they had coming over. Well, it's new guys stepping up, some freshmen, or just some transfers. But let's keep going on. Let's move over to the defense side of the ball.
Hey, real quick, before you go defense, there's one thing. I apologize, Logan. There's one thing I wanted to point out about that O-line that I do think is going to be a great thing for this team, and that is in the all-star tackle, Peter Skoronski.
Yep.
And, if you have a good left tackle to protect your blind side, even if you don't know who your quarterback is, at least you know who your left tackle is going to be.
Exactly.
And that's what they're going to be built around is that all-star left tackle, Peter Skoronski, and I just wanted to point that out before we went on defense. So that is a good plus for this team.
Yeah, that's I think they're kind of their star on offense. Is Skoronski, and hey, he's solid though. I think that his draft stock's going to rise as long as he can do what he did last year and just keep building on it. He's looking promising. I'll give him that. So I think he's the highlight for the offense right there on the O line right there, baby. Gotta love the big guys. But let's go on defense. Let's talk about this defense because this is their strong point. I think with their defense, this is where they got a lot of playmakers. They got a lot of they're hoping to be a very defensive savvy team. So what do you think about them coming in this year?
I think good things, like you said. The biggest thing I really like the most is I love their defensive coordinator. They got the defensive coordinator from Las Vegas Raiders, baby.
Yeah,
Jim O'Neill. And so already know they're off to a good start because I really like the Raiders' defense the last couple of years. And the fact that they're getting Jim O'Neill, who was under John Gruden, which I love as a head coach, and to me is already getting your team off on the right path. Now, they gave up 341 yards last year. They gave up 16 points per game. That's not really all that bad. 341 yards and 16 points is actually very manageable because that gives your offense enough time to come up with their points. So that makes it, I think if they can get it down under 16 points, if they get it around 14 or, 9, 10, that'd be great. But I think right now, even where they are right now is perfect. They just got to improve upon, what they're doing. They led the nation in pass efficiency and defense, so that's a good plus. They got 5 starters that are back, so they got 6 people you have to actually cultivate. Linebacker Chris Burgeon is a small but sizable tackler, or good tackler, solid tackler. So you got Spivak, which is a South Forest in the interior linebacker. So between Bergen and Spivak, you got the small but solid guy, but you also have the interior. So that's basically what it tells me is you have linebackers who can defend against the run and can also fly to the outsides if they have to. So I think but in this defense, Logan, what you're going to see is a lot of next man up.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be the next man up on this defense to take the spots? You got Brandon Joseph, the All Big Ten Safety, you got Al Hampton, good all-around corner. But you're missing 4 of your top 6 tacklers that can hit, which is a huge thing. Because you got 5 coming, but you got 6 missing, and the 6 that you're missing are your top 6. So that's why I say a lot of this is going to be next man up, Logan.
Yeah, it really is, man, and it's going to be it's going to be difficult, I think, because they have a lot of turnover. No pun intended for this defense, because they had a lot of guys who, they left, they moved on to the NFL, and I think a key in one of those, and all the guys that left, I think Greg Newsome II, who was their all-star shutdown cornerback, who's with Cleveland now, that's going to hurt him this year, I think, because Newsome was an absolute baller at Northwestern, and it's going to hurt losing him. But like you said, they have Brandon Joseph, who had 6 picks in 2020. That's great. He's coming back at safety, so that's going to help them out a lot. You have Cameron Mitchell, who's looking like he might be the next man up at that corner position. We'll have to see, though. But so I think their secondary is fine. They're going to struggle a little bit more, but I think they'll still be fine. They're not going to get 40 points dropped on their head every single night. They'll be fine in that aspect. They lost a few guys at linebacker too. You lost Patty Fisher, and then you lost Blake Gallagher. So that's going to hurt too. But at least you're getting Chris Bergen back. He's the 3rd member of that Irish law firm, as people like to say out there. So he's coming back. So that's going to help out. But losing Fisher and losing Gallagher is going to hurt for sure. So I think that's going to hurt. But it's all right, though, because you get Peter McIntyre. And then, like I said, that's going to help too. So the linebacking core is a little bit shaky. You lost some guys as well. But I just want the D-line to step up and just protect, to go out there, go after the quarterback, and get some more sacks, because that is going to be the key. You got to get some pressure. And I think Northwestern can do it, man. You got Adebori, who's solid. He's looking like a great pass rusher. So that could be the next guy up for Northwestern in terms of who's going to be leading your team in sacks. So I think the defense is definitely the stronger point for Northwestern. I want them to get more turnovers to create more points for that offense that could struggle. They're efficient when it comes to red zone defense. So I think the defense all in all is going to be really good for Northwestern. And it might get them a few key wins at the end of the season.
Yeah, when I look at this team, when I look at the offensive player that I would build my team, on, would be Cam Porter at 5'10", 220.
Yep.
He'll settle the offense, but he needs to get more big runs, Logan. He did really well last year at those last 3 games. He did really well. But he's going to have to continue that on throughout the full solid season, and he needs a lot of big runs. And that's my offensive player of right now. Now my defensive player, I'm looking at safety Brandon Joseph. He's the best all-around safety at 6'1", 192. He's got 52 tackles, 6 picks, and 2 broken up passes in 9 games. So that's a pretty good solid effort out of him. And he's good against the run as well. So my key on offense, Logan, I'm going to tell you right now, my key on offense is you need more downfield passing, and on defense, you need to get the hell off the field.
There you go.
And then when I look at the defensive end, and I know I'm gonna butcher his name, Adebawar. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He's a defensive end, and they need him to create a pass rush for this team to be successful. I got him to be the successful guy for the season. He's a successful guy for the season with a good pass rush that will help out the inconsistencies that may be in the secondary. And if that can happen, then you're going to open up a whole whirlwind of things on the defensive side of the ball. So Adebawar, that's my guy, and that's on defense, and I think he is going to be the key success of this team. Not to mention, obviously, the obvious, Captain Obvious. The other key to the successful season is going to be who they decide to be the successor at the quarterback position.
Yeah, that's the big question mark. Who's going to lead the charge into battle at the quarterback position? We'll have to see. But looking at their schedule, Jay, it ain't doing them any favors this year. They got a pretty tough schedule, all in all, man. I'm looking at just a few of the games here. I see Michigan. I see Michigan State. You got some other great teams, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Iowa. So this is going to be a rough year, I think, in terms of the schedule. Yeah, that's true. Ohio, yeah. What do you think about their schedule? How they gonna end up at the end of the year?
Yeah, I got Michigan State, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. I mean, these are all power schools that I'm talking about that's on their schedule. Out of all the schools we've talked about in the last 3 shows that we've done today, Northwestern has the roughest schedule out of all of them. No doubt. And they're the ones with the most question marks. So I think it's interesting that you designed to put Northwestern at the end of these sessions because they had the most question marks and they had the toughest schedule. And Northwestern is not the schedule did not do them any favors. Let's put it that way.
Right.
If anything, Logan, honestly, the schedule that they got right now to me is going to build them for next year's season because this team will have gone through all the battle testing they need to go through for a better year next year. So at this year, I'm going to put them at the best, my opinion, based on what we talked about. The best I got them at right now is 6-7.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We got a comment here from Jonathan Simmons saying Big Ten. Yeah, that's where they're at, man, and it ain't doing them any favors. It really ain't. Jay, I think 6 to 7 wins is what this team's capable of. There's just a lot of, like I said, too many question marks on the offense. Is the defense going to step up huge, or are they just going to be kind of like they were in past seasons? We'll have to see, but the schedule ain't doing any favors, bro. I think 6 to 7 wins is what this team's going to be at. And, hey, pat your back, man, because it's a tough one. It really is going to be tough for Northwestern.
But I will say this, Logan. Having said all that we've said, if they keep the majority of their starters going into next year, I think next year is going to be how they do this year and how they go through training camp next year it could possibly build them for a mega season coming out of that because that's going to give them a ton of experience and a ton of things to work on. And depending on how you view it, next year could be a great, phenomenal year for those guys coming out of this year and what they do this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a building block year. You take your lumps this year, a tough schedule, get some guys some more reps, see who your quarterback for the future could be. And I think 2022 is really when we're going to see Northwestern kind of break out and shine because this year is going to be a little hard, but it's all right, though, because I'm sure they're going to put up some fights against some tough teams. And I know we'll be keeping a close eye on these Wildcats. Well, hey, if you guys have enjoyed this show here this evening, first off, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch, we do live shows every single week, man. We've been doing this for a while. We appreciate all the likes, comments, and shares you guys have been doing for us, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitch, like I said. Also, please go and check out our podcast if you've not done so already. We upload daily episodes, whether it's team previews, Legends interviews, you name it, we have it over there. We are available on every platform you can think of for podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Audible now with your Amazon account. We just learned that, so go check us out over there as well. And thank you guys so much for the downloads. It helps us out a lot. June was our best month, and we're hoping to break it in July. So thank you guys so much for doing that over there. Well, for my co-host, Jay McLovin, thanks for so much, man, for coming on and talking about the Northwestern Wildcats 2021 team preview. I've been your host, Logan Landers. Hey, guys, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. And, hey, be safe out there. See y'all.